Welcome to the IMPROVTOONS. Today we're going to go over a short form game known as The Machine. It's a very visual short form game and it really can create a stage picture. Let's get into it. Let's talk about The Machine. The Machine is not only a good improv warm-up, but it's also a good opening or group game. I saw Happily Never After with the Maydays, incredible improv team, and they use a version of this in their opening, and they do a musical version of this, which is really amazing. So let me explain it to you. Red steps out, and Red does a gesture or movement, and also a sound or word, okay? And they repeat that over and over again. So let's say they do artichoke, 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 and they raise their left hand, artichoke, artichoke, and they're trying to do this rhythmically. So then once that happens, then Gray steps out, and they also do a rhythmic movement and sound that's related to what Red does. Now, you don't have to link them together, but I'm just telling you the stronger moves, which looks really interesting, is if when Gray steps out, if Gray's gesture and word or sound is related to what they saw in Red. So if Red steps out and goes artichoke, artichoke, Gray could step out, and every time that Red raises their hand, they take a step back, and they're like, mayonnaise, because people eat artichokes with mayonnaise. They go, mayonnaise, mayonnaise, right? And then so Green could step out, and is every time Gray steps back and says mayonnaise, they go, yuck, because they don't like it. I personally like it, but say they don't like it, and Green goes, yuck, and they shake their head, yuck, shake their head. And so it looks like a machine that's operating. Now, there's a couple things that are very important to this, to make this machine work. So I'll tell you, it looks visually interesting to an audience. Now, you can do a very subtle, simple movement like raise your hand. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with it. And you just say a word. But just like with every improv scene, sure, you could do subtle and simple. That's fine. But big, bold choices pay off. So if you did like a cartwheel or a somersault, like something big and bold, and maybe did like a character voice, then you'll find that that pays off much better. Just realize that if you're doing something like squats, which I've seen people do before, you're going to be doing it for a while, so you'll get tired. So if you do like a cartwheel, yeah, just it looks cool, but you're gonna be doing it for a while. So you might not want to do something that's too expansive, but something that's a big, bold choice. Like maybe not just a word, but an emotion that goes with it, or a volume that goes with it, or an intensity that goes with it. Big, bold choices pay off. Another thing is when that first person steps out, if you've taken an improv class with me, I always say the initiation is not as important as the support. So when Red steps out, doesn't matter. They get a suggestion from the audience and they do their first motion and movement. It's not important that it's clever or it's funny or whatever it is. It's just important that that initiation starts, right? So Ren steps out, and what's important is that when Gray steps out to support, people will hang back because they'll think, I don't have something funny to add to it, or I quote unquote don't have an idea yet. It's not important that you're clever or witty. What's important is that what you do is inspired by what the person before you did, and that you're cued by them. Okay. Stop trying to be worried about being funny, because what happens is people worried about being funny and then they don't support their teammates and then they get stuck in their head. It's more important to support your teammate. It's more important not to leave your teammate out there, because if you're stuck on the back line saying, I'm waiting till I think of something funny, you're not part of the team and you want to be part of the team. So what happens is you do your cue off the person in front of you. So Red and then Gray and then Green, and they're doing the machine and they're saying the things. So it's important that you take your cue and you find your rhythm together as a team. Because what happens with the machine with really skilled improvisers is you don't just repeat that over and over again. You start going faster, or you start going slower and you start breaking down, or you start going more intense because you're a machine and you want to see the machine at its height or when it's breaking down or whatever it is. And although everything is a scene, like a machine can be a scene, and you're watching the machine establish itself as a first pattern, then in the second pattern you watch it build and either destroy or go crazy or whatever it is. And that's the scene, is the building of this machine, the building or establishment of this machine, watching the machine break down and explode. It's very visually interesting. Do not overthink it. Just jump in there and support your partner. When you're entering the scene, think about how that builds as well. So if Red steps out, you let them do their gesture for a few beats. Then Gray steps out and they do their gesture for the few beats. Now what happens is people add on faster and faster because you're building the speed, you're building the energy. And then once everyone in your team's out there, everyone goes faster and faster and faster, or they go slower and slower, because there's different ways to build energy. There's different ways to build that moment. And then things can either go nuts and the machine breaks. Some ways to take this to the next level is you do you take a suggestion from the audience, and the machine you're building is that machine. So let's just take artichoke, and your machine is an artichoke machine. And so everyone's process has somehow related to an artichoke. I know that sounds really weird, but it's just, like I said, the initiation is not as important as the support. And you have thematic machines, like a machine that makes cigarettes, or a machine that cleans the ocean, or something like that. And you can even move the machine around if you want to. So it's really interesting. There's a lot of things you can do with this. It's a pretty basic theater game, and it's something that you can modify to suit yourself. And like I said, it's very visual to an audience. It's very visual. Have a good time, everybody. Thank you for supporting the Improv Tunes. Please like, share, and comment. It really helps me out. But also like, share, and comment on other improv teams. If there's another improv team in your city, go to their show. Just because you're not on their improv team doesn't mean you can't support them. We're not enemies. We're all part of the same community. If another new improv team pops up in your city, welcome them in. Share a night with them. They do a half hour, you do a half hour, and share audiences. Promote with one another. We get bigger, we get stronger, and maybe your whole city becomes renowned for improv. See you next time on the Improv Tunes.